Hey there. So today I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you what it is that I do. In this particular instance, I am going to show you kind of how I do transcriptions. So I transcribe just about everything, every record I come across. That's personal preference, but it's also a strategy. I'm not going to go into like full details as to why I do that, but in this particular instance, I am trying to figure out a situation because I have found these letters on Ancestry written by my first cousin 4 times removed, Julia Webster. And this particular tree owner had posted what appears to be 3 or 4 letters. I'm not quite sure. It's a little confusing because they're not quite in order, and that's part of the problem. I'm trying to figure out whether or not they're in like the right pages with the right letter and if the pages are in order. So that's part of the reason I'm transcribing that, is to make sure that everything flows together. The other reason I'm transcribing it is because all of the letters are addressed to Dear Cousin. Not very helpful. So I'm hoping that by reading very critically the letters, I can determine who the recipient is. So I'm pretty sure they're not in my line, because I actually do have letters from the same person that are addressed to someone in my line. So I don't think that somebody else would have ended up with stuff from my line, but who knows. So at any rate, that's what I'm going to be working on and showing you today. So hopefully you can get some tips and tricks as to transcribing records, because I do things perhaps a little differently and maybe a little unorthodox than what others may do. So maybe you'll get some takeaways and it will help you with your transcription projects. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Julie Cahill-Tarr, and I simplify advanced genealogy research concepts so that you can trace your elusive ancestors quickly and easily. So if you are a dedicated genealogist that is looking to up-level your skills, you're in the right place. So again, I'm going to take you on a behind-the-scenes tour of transcribing a letter. And don't worry, it will not be, I will speed through most of the transcribing and just kind of slow it down and talk to important points that I want to make. So don't worry, you won't spend an entire hour or anything watching me type and all that stuff. So we are going to head over to the computer, and I will screen share so you can see better what I am doing, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so here is the profile for Julia Ann Webster. And this user, this is a public tree, so this user uploaded these different letters, and you can see that they're broken down by year. So you have 1947 C, B, A. You would think that was it, but it's not, because here's D down here. So not only are they a little mixed up, but they're also in reverse order, which makes it a little bit more tricky. So as I was going through these, I still felt like maybe things weren't quite in the right order. So, and then there's this card, and I don't know what this is about. I don't know if it belongs to something else. I don't know if it's separate. I really have no idea. But the best way for me to figure this out and to sort this out is to transcribe it, all of them. And I do this for, as I mentioned earlier, I do this for a number of reasons, but in this case, it's really to identify who Dear Cousin is and to make sure that these are all within the right letter and in the correct order. So I have downloaded all of them. I'm going to open one of them and I'm going to transcribe in Word. Now you could use a program like GenScriber. I have used that. I think it's a good program. However, I like to do it this way because there are things that I will do in this Word document that I'm pretty sure you can't do in GenScriber, and I'll explain that as I go through this. So I am going to transcribe a little bit of this, and when I get to a point where I want to make a reference, I will slow it back down and talk about it. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to put some information in about the transcribing. So I have here a letter from Julia Webster to dear cousins dated May 21st, 1929. The letter was obtained from the Needles Family History 2012 Ancestry Tree of user as TARWW61, and it was transcribed by me on May 1st, 2022. And I'm just going to go ahead and start writing. Oops. And I am not of the opinion that everything has to be line by line, where you break it at the end of the line as you find it. I don't believe that unless it's necessary. And there are cases where that may be necessary. In the case of a letter, I don't. And I don't do, tabbing and that kind of thing unless it's necessary. And one thing I want to make a note of too is that sometimes you have autocorrect on, or like it wants to fill in certain words. So we're going to go, and this is actually a new computer, and I have not done this with this setup yet. So I should probably do that. So let's see if I can remember to do this. See, this is autocorrect options. Correct to initial caps. Let me turn that off. Capitalized first letter of sentence, not always done in these old letters. Capitalized first letter of table cells. I'm going to say no to that one too. Capitalizing into days again. I'm going to turn all this stuff off. Correct accidental use of caps locks. Yes, that's fine. That can stay. These I'm just going to leave alone. But I am going to off. And then auto format as you type, turn fractions off. Ordinals with superscript, always turn that off, like for real. Superscript, you should never use a superscript for an ordinal. Just trust me, don't. Hyphens with a dash, I'm going to turn that off too. I always turn off internet and network path hyperlinks. I like to manually do them because sometimes I am doing writings that don't need them. That's just a personal preference. I don't want to automatically bullet lists. That's just in general. Border lines. Well, I haven't set up any of this. I don't want to do automatic numbered lists, and probably not tables either. Auto format. Turn that ordinal off, turn that fraction off, turn that hyphen off. That. Okay, so I think I'm good. So I'm just going to go through and type up some of this, and then I'm going to show you some different things that I do. So just keep right on going. There's actually a way to do this. Go to insert symbols, more symbols, and we're going to look for the half, which I believe is up here somewhere. That is the correct way to do that. Okay, so I am actually going to, I'm going to continue this letter, but what I'm going to do is here I'm going to put page 1 so that I know, because sometimes I would do it in separate files, but since this one's got like 4 or 5 pages to it, I really don't want to do it in separate files. So I'm going to just do this. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because I want to make a note of something. So I did not turn off grammar check or spell check probably. So I need to go back to options and I need to turn those off because check spelling as you type and mark grammar errors as you type, because I don't want those blue lines and those red lines annoying the heck out of me. That's just me personally. I turn them off all the time. The only time I turn them on is when I'm actually doing editing work or writing something that isn't a transcription. So just very simply go there, turn it on, turn it off. I knew exactly where that one was because I do that all the time. But now that line isn't showing up. And the reason it was is because it should have an apostrophe S. The letter does not have that. So this is a case where it's an insertion. So you can just type it in. You don't have to make a note of the insertion. Like you could put a little caret there if you wanted to, but you don't have to in this case. Especially, she only had one L, and this would have auto-corrected in most cases. That's why I turn it off. Okay, so once I've transcribed this, I go through and I read it and I look for information, clues, whatever. So I am not entirely sure what in the world is going on in this first part about a picture frame, a map made from a copy you took home with you. I would not mind if there was a margin or space of an inch or so all around the outer edge after yours is finished and you have carried on your dear mother's line. Would you please carry on our line, just on mine, like this under, and then she lists George Parks Webster, married Margaret Farrell, January 27th, 1864, then a line. I'm not sure. It doesn't mean that there's a line in between because their children were Byron James, Julia Ann, who's the author of this letter, Mary Isabel, and John George. Unfortunately, she put in commas, which is helpful because I didn't think there was a Byron and a James and a Julia and an Ann and a Mary and an Isabel and a John and a George. There's actually just 4, and that lines up with what I know about the family. You see the writing or printing would all be the same. Put this program, etc. away. Today I am sending for 65 copies of the Pontiac Daily Press. Yesterday morning was spent in checking up names. I have absolutely no idea what she's talking about. What I suspect is going on here, I know that she was very much involved with the DAR. And in fact, I have a feeling that down here, and when she's talking about this meeting, I believe that's probably a DAR meeting. It might not be, but it's quite possible because she was very much into the DAR. I don't know who Ruby R is. That's a name I'm not entirely familiar with, so that's going to be something. I also want to make a note of I'm curious to know what was in this daily press that she wanted 65 copies. So it doesn't say what she says. That today I'm sending for 65 copies of the Pontiac Daily Press, but she doesn't say which issue or why. So this is one of those things. This is why I use Word, because I like to be able to do this. So what issue and why? So if I have access to this, I can maybe go, I'm gonna actually put this in full screen. I can actually try to figure out, based on this date of May 21st, I can start on the 21st, I can go back a couple of days and see maybe why she's trying to get 65 copies. I have the foggiest idea. There's no context here, unfortunately. And then they're checking up names. And it's, it goes on to say that Ruby R will be up Wednesday. Then we check up again for the pictures. Some work this rounding up the clan. So I don't know if they're trying to find family members because of their interest in DAR. I don't know if they're trying to find family members for a reunion, if they're trying to put a book together, do family history research. I haven't the foggiest idea, but it sounds like they're trying to find Websters everywhere. I'm also going to make a comment here. Who is Ruby? Another one is, who is Finley? And this name actually sounds familiar. But I'm not recalling why. Let's see. I had some people here who made the trip once they said it was around 125. That should be an I remember that. Oh, I put an S there. Were you all tired out and your driver more than disgusted with his call in Pontiac? So this person that she's writing to was clearly not living in Pontiac in May of 1929. So I'm going to make a note of that. Recipient not living in May. That's a clue. Like I said, this could help me figure out who she's writing to. And then she says, after you mentioned your little talks with Nettie Lambert. So Nettie Lambert, I believe, is a daughter of Polly Webster of Lay. And I will actually confirm that really quick because I know they're in my database. So yeah, Nettie is the daughter of Polly. She married this Charles Lambert. Okay, so I probably should have saved this. Better late than never, right? Just gonna save it to my desktop. So, brother. Just making notes to myself. This is why I use Word. And then eventually I may convert some of these things to footnotes just so that, I can, like this one, I probably would convert to a footnote and just say that Nettie Lambert is Nettie Valet Lambert, daughter of Polly Webster Valet. Nettie married Charles Lambert and whenever she married him, just as a note. Still never heard this phrase before. I don't know why she why she put it in quotes, but okay. I connect. So one of the clues that I can also discern from this letter is that the recipient is not in Polly's line. And the reason I say that is because, I'm trying to figure out which line the recipient is in. And in order to do that, I have to rule out other lines. So I can tell from this one, well, first of all, I'm pretty darn sure it's not my line either. Because I actually do have letters from Julia. So I would have ended up with them, right? Why would this cousin of mine end up with them, right? If it wasn't in my line, that doesn't make any sense. I don't believe they're Julia's line because Julia had never married and had no descendants. So these were, whoever the recipient was, that's where they ended up. They didn't go back to Julia. So I have no idea. But at any rate, I can start ruling out people. I know the cousin is not in Polly's line. She's talking about that, and I have no idea what the state prison situation is. I don't know of anybody in Jackson, but I don't know. I've got a lot of websites. They're all over Michigan, so who knows? So it sounds like maybe she wants to do some research to figure out if they're related. Cool. All right. So the recipient was in Pontiac. Saturday. I don't know what day it is. I can actually look that up. It's one of my little cheats that I do in Legacy. Let's do the date calculator. So that was a Tuesday. So it looks like May 18th potentially. So put that in the letter. And then let me get rid of that. 29. Okay. Let's see what else. I still don't know who Ruby is. Make a list of your brother's family. I mean, families, those that are married anyway. So recipient has a brother that has families. Just sounds like one brother. She doesn't make mention of any other brothers or any other sisters. So that's interesting. Or it could be that they don't have children, and or that maybe Julia already has information on the other people. Who knows? Okay, and then Jenny M said John H went over to Cleveland in March this year to see her. Now, when I started typing this, Jenny M, I thought maybe it was my second great grandmother. But then when it said went over to Cleveland in March this year to see her, I thought, maybe not, because my Jenny was never in Cleveland that I'm aware of. So I'm not really sure who this is. Although I do have, so my initial thought was Jenny Mulligan. So I have a Sarah Jane Mulligan with by Jenny. And my initial thought was her, but she was never in Cleveland to my knowledge. However, her father, James Mulligan, had 3 wives and 3 families. So maybe there's still a lot of them ended up in Cleveland. So maybe this M still is Mulligan. So I'm going to put in Mulligan ? And John H. I'm going to suspect that this might be Van. Helen Webster Oliver. Okay, I know she's in my tree somewhere. And he says, tell him that Mrs. Helen Webster Oliver is the same party that he visited once when he was in Pawnee. John played the mouth organ while there. So do some digging here. I just want to see if I have a John. I've got a couple. Franklin Jr., who was married to a Mary Teresa, who was born in 1896 and lived in Ohio. John was married twice to a Mary between, yeah, okay, so that could be this one too. But it probably is, I'm probably correct that it is Hannah Van. Oh, and look, here's a Ruby. Interesting. This could very well be this one. 1830, we're in Ohio. over to Cleveland in March. Hard to say. Yeah, we're this way. Do this given name. That's really helpful. Right there. Okay. Okay, so she was the daughter of William Eyre. So she's actually part of my line, sort of. Interesting. Aaron. Right. And so it's pretty much all I have right now for this particular letter. But I can put these clues together and potentially figure out who the recipient is based just on some of this information. So that's just one letter. I've only done one, and it does appear that this is in the correct order. It's oddly weird, but almost like a stream of consciousness letter. But at any rate, I do believe that these are the correct pages and that they are all in order. And as you can see, I have a bunch of notes. So yeah, I mean, a lot of clues, a lot of things to follow up on. I'm curious about this Jenny M because I don't know. I know my family is mentioned in another letter for sure. I know it's my people because it's Emma. So I know it's my great grandmother. But this one I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to do some digging. But yes, so this is just step one. But I hope that you kind of found this. I know this was a little long and try to point out some tips, to deal with word and the auto correcting and the turning the grammar and spelling off and all that kind of stuff. And then how I use Word to then do these comments so that I can call attention to certain things. Like, I really want to know what was in this darn paper that she needed 65 copies of it. I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, there's things here that, could provide evidence in other cases. I already have their marriage record, I believe. So, I mean, great. It's just more evidence, and that these are their children and things like that. So, I mean, there's other clues in here too. But right now, my whole thing is, because I already know who Julia's parents were. I know all that. I know the family makeup pretty well. So I'm not really concerned about this. But if I just came across these and I didn't know this family at all, I would definitely be highlighting these saying, oh, okay, George Parks Webster married Margaret Farrell. on the 27th of January in 1864. Fantastic. And these apparently are their children or something. Okay, cool. So I would definitely be making notes of that. But since I already know this family, I'm not really concerned with that information right now. But it could be used as evidence in other scenarios that I might be working on. But in this case, I'm really just trying to identify make sure the letters are in the right order, in the right batch of letters, I suppose, in the right order, and then try to figure out who the recipient is. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you wouldn't mind subscribing and click the little bell so you'll be notified when new videos are released. Like I said, I will be doing some of these kind of behind the scenes things, just to kind of give you an idea of what I do and what my process is and how I work. Sometimes we go into this blind and we reinvent the wheel, and we don't have to. So seeing what I do might help you in the long run, might help you become more efficient, more effective, learn little tips and tricks on, hey, I should turn off my grammar and spell check when I'm transcribing records in Word, because those red lines and blue lines are really annoying, right? So anyways, I hope you got something out of this, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.